Hello everyone and welcome to Big Rock Moto. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you follow other moto vloggers like myself out there, or almost any other digital content video creators, you may have noticed that most of us have stopped using GoPros, and many of us, almost all of us, if I'm being honest, have switched to DJI cameras. So you might have been wondering, what's the reason for this? Why have we all switched to things like the Osmo Action 4 for our helmet cams and our action cameras? Now, in terms of complete transparency and a disclaimer as we get started into this video, DJI does provide me and has provided me with some free cameras. So some of the action cameras you see here, I did pay actually for my Pocket 3 on my own, but I did receive the action cams, and I also received a camera drone from them. So I do have that gear sponsorship from DJI. Just want you all to know that. However, I did not receive any cash payments from DJI because I don't accept those types of financial sponsorships in terms of cash payments. All right, so today's video, I'm going to break down 7 main reasons why I have switched and why I think most of us have switched away from things like the GoPros, GoPro Heroes, to the DJI Osmo Action 4. All right, reason number 1 that I've stopped using GoPro and have switched to DJI cameras is reliability and consistency. So the main issue that I've had with GoPros over the past, how many years have I been doing this? About 6 years making motorcycle videos for YouTube. Going all the way back to the GoPro 7s, all the way up to the newest GoPro Hero 12s. They have reliability problems. If you've used them, you probably have encountered this. So the issues that I've had with the GoPro cameras, freezing up, failing to write the files correctly, corrupting the files, overheating, battery life issues, inconsistent battery life. The battery life reads totally incorrectly. Batteries just die out of nowhere. The corrupted files. No joke, every single time I went out on a filming expedition like for a few hours with the GoPro cameras to film motorcycle reviews, every single time, and I'm not making this up, there would be some sort of error with the GoPro, and it was just, I can't even tell you how frustrating that was. So I had started looking for alternatives to using GoPro. Now, I've been using DJI action cameras, specifically the Osmo Action 4s. I actually have 3 of them, I believe, and I have some other DJI cameras as well. I've been using these for about the last 6 to 12 months, and I'm not making this up. I have not had a single error with DJI, not even the slightest hiccup or malfunction or anything with the DJI cameras, not one. So that's phenomenal. It's completely changed my work life because I do this for a living, so I'm really grateful for that. And even if I had to pay for these cameras, like with normal money, like normal people, not a YouTuber who gets free products, I would still pay for these cameras because the difference it makes to my workflow and my just normal workday is so incredible. Okay, reason number 2 that I love the DJI cameras is the mounting system. So DJIs use a magnetic clip-on mount. So let me show you how this works. The nice thing is I've got a few different options here. You can even do this with gloves on. You see how the camera just comes off like that? And then to put it back on, you just get it in place and you kind of push down a little bit. You'll hear 2 clicks and it locks into place, cannot come off. So I've got it on the helmet here as well. The nice thing about this, the thing I love about this is when I need to use the camera on the back, the primary screen on the back to check footage or change settings, all I have to do is unclip this like this. It's a little bit hard to do with being sitting behind it. But see, I just unclip it. Now I can get to my stuff and then I can clip it back on my mount like this and I'm good to go. So I love that, and that's something that GoPro just doesn't have. With the GoPros, you have the little thumb screws that you're always having to take in and out, and I just didn't like that. Okay, so the third reason I like these Action 4s is the temperature stability. What I mean is that, so I've used action cameras, the GoPros in the past, in cold and hot conditions, and they really struggle, the GoPros did, with battery life and overheating. either it was too cold for the batteries and they would just die out of nowhere if it was like below 50 degrees Fahrenheit, which isn't even that cold. And if it was hot, I'd have constant overheating of the camera when shooting and shutting down, things getting corrupted. With the DJIs, I've shot in temperatures from just above freezing and raining all the way up to 100 plus degrees Fahrenheit in the bright sun in the middle of the day when I'm out filming bikes. And I haven't had any issues related to temperature. I've not had a single overheat, and I haven't had anything in the cold in terms of battery degradation or battery life or being too cold. So whatever DJI have done is phenomenal. They've somehow managed to figure out the battery consistency and the performance, stability in all sorts of temperatures. Okay, reason number 4, and we've kind of alluded to this a little bit, is the excellent battery performance and consistency on the DJI Osmo Action 4. Using the GoPros all the way back to the 7s, but especially now with the newer ones, the 11s and the 12s, of which I have both, huge battery life and consistency issues with the GoPro batteries. They brought out these new Enduro batteries, which were supposedly going to fix the problem, and actually I thought they were maybe even worse. I bought a bunch of the Enduro batteries, spent a bunch of money, got different chargers. None of that worked. With the GoPro, I would always have issues where it would say it had like 50% battery, and then you'd start filming, and within like a minute it would just die, and it would go to and then you'd try to restart it, and it would say battery low, even though it just said 50%. So huge issues with that. The battery life on the DJI is really good, and you can shoot for much, much longer on a single battery. These are the DJI batteries. So not just the consistency and the temperature performance in cold and hot, but also the amount of time you can film is really, really good with the DJI. Now, some other things I like about the charging. So when you buy these cameras, you get this charging case. This is really clever because you can fit 3 batteries in here, and then it plugs into a USB-C plug, and you can charge it if you're traveling on a motorcycle like I do sometimes. I can charge it in my tank bag or my luggage with the charger here and just charge everything up while on the go, charge it at night, whatever in your room. But this is really, really convenient. So the battery kind of technology and the charging stuff that DJI has is really, really great. And I've not noticed any degradation in the battery performance. I have, I think maybe 5 or 6 batteries, and they're all very consistent. So great job on the battery life, DJI. Okay, the 5th reason that I like the DJI cameras and have switched away from GoPro is the image quality. Now, let me be honest about something. You see a lot of videos out there, whether it's about the Insta360, which is a good camera too, the DJIs or the GoPros, saying that the image quality is better. You know, the image quality from all the modern cameras, whether it's the Hero 12 or 11, the Osmo Action 4, or the Insta360 Ace Pro, I think is the newest one, the image quality on all of them is pretty good. Let's just be honest. Now, the DJI has a larger sensor. The Insta360 has a pretty large sensor as well, but the GoPro has a smaller sensor. A larger image sensor means a cleaner image, less noise, and better low light performance. So the 1/1.3 inch image sensor on the DJIs, it's good in low light. Of course, it's good in full sun as well. But it just gives you that extra sort of bandwidth for your image quality. And I've been really, really happy with the performance of it. You can change the settings in the camera to get different sharpness, different colors. You can also they have more advanced color settings if you want to do that. And then of course in post-processing, you can change things as well, which I always do. Okay, reason number 6 that I really like the DJI action cameras are going to be the audio and microphone options. So they're really a leader in the audio category for action cameras, and probably for all their cameras. And here's why. There's a few reasons for that. One is that they have their own microphones. Not only do these mics have really great image quality and they're really easy to use, but the amazing thing that they've done, which the other manufacturers I believe don't offer, is they have Bluetooth wireless microphone input into the action cam. So let's say like I have the mic adapter on this one here and I'll talk about that in a second, why I still use a hardwired lavalier microphone inside my helmet on my primary film helmets. But you can connect their wireless mic without using any sort of input or into the camera. The nice thing about that is you can keep your camera completely sealed up and waterproof, fully waterproof, submersible, and still have external audio recording into the camera. Now that's phenomenal. This allows you to do something like, for me, I could put this helmet in my backpack or my jacket pocket or my tank bag of the bike, capture maybe the engine or the exhaust sound of the bike, or other kind of audio if I don't want the wind noise from the helmet. Also, I can use, when I use my Osmo Pocket 3, which is also an amazing camera, this connects up to that wirelessly. So instead of having a transmitter, like with the Rode mic I'm wearing now for my Canon SLR that I'm using to film this video, I have to have a receiver mounted on the camera, then I have to have this. They all have to connect, and there's a lot of stuff you got to deal with. With the DJI, it's all in one. This transmits wirelessly into the camera, which records audio. So that's phenomenal. But you also have the option of using lavalier mics as well, of course. So it has a USB input, which you can use. So if you have a USB microphone, you can plug in, or you can use this adapter that you see here on this Rye helmet for this setup. And I have, this happens to be a Rode microphone, but I also have one of the DJI microphone lavalier mics as well, which is equally good, and I highly recommend it. I'll link to everything below, and you can plug that in here like this. The reason I like to do this with my primary helmets for filming, for motovlogging, is because then I don't have to worry about the battery on the microphone dying. Plus, I've got the lavalier mic taped up really well inside to minimize the wind noise when I'm riding at higher speeds. So I just plug this in, and I know my microphone setup is good to go. But equally, you could put this in your helmet, tape this up. You would just have to, turn it on and then make sure to keep your battery charged, which is an extra step. But you could totally do that, and there's a lot of people doing that with great success. And I may switch to that, but for now I'm still using some of I'm old school. I like the hardwired microphones, that kind of a setup. The other cool thing with the audio on the DJIs, and I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think the GoPros have this, and I don't know if the Insta does, but they have a gain setting. So super important for me. I don't want my audio to clip. It gets very, very noisy filming motorcycle videos, so I have my gain in the camera set to -6 usually, around that. I always experiment with different microphones to make sure I've got it right. But setting the gain down, make sure that my audio is nice and low so I'm not clipping on the really loud parts, and I can bring up the audio in post-processing. But having that gain setting is a really, really nice feature that I don't recall the GoPros having that. All right, reason number 7 is the weight. The DJI cameras are lighter than the Insta360 or the GoPros. This is made even better by the fact that you don't have to use a media mod case. Like with the GoPro, to use external microphone input, I would have to use a media mod case, which adds a lot of weight and bulk to the camera. You can see on this helmet, although I do on this have this microphone adapter which sticks out here, although you don't have to have that, because like we talked about, you can have wireless audio going in from the DJI mic, or you can plug a USB mic directly into the side of the camera and not have this little adapter. But what I'm saying is that it's a less weight, and it's noticeable on my helmet, because when you put a camera up on the front of your helmet, and that's the best place to put a camera if you're motovlogging, is right here on your chin or a chin mount setup. You really notice the weight dragging your head down, and it gets tiring over a long day. You really notice it. It throws off the balance of the helmet. So the lighter that camera's rig setup is, the better off I am. So these are lighter. These two here, you can see a little bigger. They've got the little protective case. I don't have it on this one because I've got the little mic adapter. But even with this, they're still lighter than the GoPros or the Instas, as far as I know. And I notice a big difference versus using the GoPro 11 or 12 on the helmet. So that's a really nice thing, and makes a big difference for me as somebody who has to have a camera on my helmet all the time. All right, I want to share kind of my recommended settings that I personally use on my Osmo Action 4. So field of view, to capture the widest field of view. Also, this is what's great about these. These have the widest field of view among their competitors. I think it's 155 degrees. So I use ultra wide field of view. That gives me that nice view with the handlebar, the instruments on the bike, the gas tank, the windshield, everything. It's a nice field of view. And then I use rock steady stabilization on to the normal setting. And then exposure auto, white balance auto, normal color, and I bring the sharpness up to +1, and I leave the noise reduction at 0. Now there's another optional setup that you can do. Sometimes some videos of mine you're going to see that really kind of, well, some people like it, some people don't. It's a more cinematic looking motion blur. So when I do that, What I have to do to achieve that is a little trickier. So you have to use an ND filter, which they sell. You screw onto the front here. It also acts as a lens protector, lens cover. Use an ND filter to bring the brightness down, and you have to set your shutter speed at twice your frame rate. So if you're shooting at 24 or 25 frames a second, you'd have to set your shutter at 1/50th, and then you set the camera. The way the camera manages exposure then is do auto ISO. So by doing the auto ISO, it can compensate for the different light levels to give you the right exposure because you've now forced it into that shutter speed. If you're using 30 frames a second, use 1/60 shutter speed. That gives you that blurring motion effect as the motorcycle is going down the road. You don't have to do that setup, and I normally don't, but it does give me a more cinematic look, which sometimes I like, but opinions vary on that. Otherwise, use the other settings that I gave you, which is more like, set it and forget it kind of a mode. Some tips and tricks on audio specific to motovlogging. Capturing helmet audio when you're riding down the highway on a motorcycle is one of the most challenging audio things you could ever do with filming. It's super challenging, other than maybe attaching your helmet to the frickin' space shuttle or something. I mean, it's so noisy in a helmet, right, with the wind hitting you. So some tips I have, I already kind of mentioned this, but I use the gain setting on like -6 in the cameras, which is great that the DJIs have that. I like to use the lavalier mics. I've talked about why, and then I kind of put duct tape over most of the mic inside the helmet, and I've got the microphone like right in front of my mouth, kind of just inside the chin bar here. So you have to experiment. You have to try some different microphones with your cameras, set your gain setting, experiment with taping over the microphone or not to see how it works. Every bike's different. Getting audio is really, really challenging. But also I recommend picking up the DJI microphones and playing with these as well. It just, it's not something that you can just have the same forever. Sometimes you change things up or you have to experiment to get a better result. Now, have I noticed any downsides with the DJI Osmo Action 4s in the 6 to 12 months that I've been using them? There's only one tiny little downside that I've noticed, is that when I'm using this particular microphone adapter for a 3.5 millimeter microphone plug, when I turn the camera on and start recording, it seems to there's a slight delay where it switches over from the internal built-in mic on the camera to the external mic audio. So what I do is I speak into the camera like check 1, check 1, check 2, check 3. Usually by the time I do that, it detects the audio coming into the input and then switches over. So I notice that in the editing, but with this, if I just hit the button, it's very fast to record, by the way. It's like less than half a second, which is really great, faster than the other cameras out there. If you just hit it and then start talking with this setup anyway, not with their own microphone, but if you're using this adapter with a lav mic, then there seems to be a tiny delay, but then it's very consistent after that. So it's a very easy, quick workaround, but that's the only small downside that I've noticed in all my time working with these cameras. All right, well, thank you for watching this, and thank you DJI for supporting Big Rock Moto. I'm super happy to have such a good product, a good company helping me out make these videos. So thank you DJI, and thank all of you for watching something like this. Now, if you have questions or concerns, let me know down below. And if you're gonna buy the stuff, use my links. I will have some affiliate links below, maybe on Amazon to buy the DJI cameras if you'd like. That helps me out with a little bit of commission, which I reinvest back into content creation here on the channel. So again, thank you so much for watching. Ride safe, and I'll see you out there.